Welcome back to Financial Fortitude. I'm Michael Acosta, joined as always by my co-host Brady Hemmerly.
Today we're talking about something that impacts physicians, business owners, executives, attorneys, and really any high-income professional every single year, but most people never even notice it's happening.
And that's what we call hidden cash flow, specifically what happens after you exceed the Social Security wage cap. For 2026, once an individual earns more than $184,500, you effectively stop paying the 6.2% Social Security payroll tax on additional earned dollars or income above that mark. Then once you exceed $200,000, an additional Medicare tax of 0.9% kicks in. The fascinating part, most people never intentionally redirect the increase in take-home pay that occurs after crossing that threshold. It simply disappears into the abyss of lifestyle creep.
So today we're walking through what the Social Security wage cap actually is, why high earners unknowingly experience a cash flow increase every year, how much money could potentially be recaptured, and how to intentionally redirect those dollars towards building a stronger financial future instead of unconsciously spending them.
Welcome to Financial Fortitude, a podcast for high earners, families, and business owners. We are your hosts, Michael Acosta
and Brady Hemmerly. Each week we bring purpose-driven financial guidance to you so you can be assured you're on the right path. If you're looking to become an extraordinary wealth builder, let's dive in. Well, Michael, I'm pretty excited about this episode because, as our intro alluded to, it is effectively applicable to any high-earning professional, right?
Yes.
Regardless of the field that you're in, regardless of the education that you have, hey, at the end of the day, if I am a high earner in the neighborhood of $185,000 or more each year, this is directly applicable to me.
Absolutely. Now, I will say that it becomes more meaningful as far as where you end up above that cap, right? Another way of saying that is if you're making $450,000 a year, you're going to exceed that Social Security wage cap sooner in the year, calendar year, as opposed to someone who's making $200,000, correct? So just be mindful of that, but you're right. It is applicable to basically anyone of all different occupations or professional paths.
So let's start with some basics then. I guess the first question that I'd have for you, for listeners who have not heard of this before or are completely unaware of this concept, just talk to us a little bit about what Social Security tax actually is and why or how it's capped, just generally.
Yeah, so Social Security tax is something that's withheld from most W-2 paying jobs, right? If you're self-employed or you're a contractor with 1099 income, you're typically not going to have Social Security tax withheld. That's a different topic for a different day. So we're solely focused on W-2 employees or payroll tax in general with this.
And this could still be applicable for the business owner who employs W-2 employees, though.
Correct.
Right? To make their
Correct.
employees aware of this concept.
Absolutely. And we're primarily focused on the employee's take home and the taxes that the employee is paying. Because again, as a business owner, you're effectively paying both sides of the aisle with the Social Security tax, 6.2% as the employer and 6.2% on the employee side of things. So let's just isolate to the employee side of things. So you get paid, 6.2% comes out as one of the taxes of your paycheck above the line, right, pre-tax, along with federal tax, state tax, and Medicare tax. So Social Security tax is 6.2%. Now, once you've earned a gross earnings of $184,500 for the tax year 2026, that 6.2% is no longer withheld. So the big question becomes, what happens to that extra cash flow if it's not being withheld?
So let's walk through that then. I make $250,000 through the course of the entire year. Over the first number of paychecks, however many that is, right, that 6.2% is going to be automatically withheld from my paycheck. And then at a certain point, once I've actually hit that cap, my withholding from my W-2 employer is essentially going to stop for that 6.2%. There's no warning. There's no adjustment, right? It's just, hey, that amount of money that was normally being withheld is now showing up in my paycheck. So it's effectively a raise or an increase from what I'm used to getting paid. Do I have that right?
Correct. Absolutely. So using that example that you gave, someone who makes $250,000 a year is going to get paid, assuming a 26 pay period biweekly, about $9,615 gross per pay period. that 6.2% Social Security tax withholding is about $596.15 per paycheck. Now, once they have earned gross $184,500 on the year, they should see an increase of around $596 in their take home, approximately, right? Now, most people don't pay any attention to that. And because we're so busy and distracted with the day-to-day demands and tasks and excitements of the world, this money ultimately is just absorbed into our checking account, which mindlessly goes to lifestyle, or what we call the lifestyle creep.
Got it. So that being the case, then I guess the next question that I have for you is, Michael, I am a W-2 employee. I get a bonus every single spring. How does that affect the calculation?
So it actually improves it. It works in your benefit because it's front loading in the spring the amount of gross earned income towards that 184.5 on the year, that cap. So the goal should be, how quickly can we get to the cap so that we give less Social Security tax to Uncle Sam, and we ultimately start to have more take home as the employee. So now again, the Social Security tax is us as working professionals and contributors to society paying into the Social Security fund. But once we hit that cap, it's no longer being withheld, which I think is a huge opportunity for professionals, families, business owners to actually take their wealth building potential and their status as an extraordinary wealth builder to the next level.
Got it. Okay. So let's jump into an example then, and we'll work off of this example through the remainder of our conversation. Let's take a physician earning $450,000 annually. Let's assume that they're paid bi-weekly. And for the simplicity, at least, of all of the numbers, the calculators, all of the different pieces that we'll talk about, we'll assume no bonus, right? Their pay is level through the entire year.
Correct.
So for our listeners who may be able to see the screen here, we actually have a proprietary calculator that really helps clients and listeners walk through how this works, where the opportunity is, when these things happen. But Michael, walk us through a little bit of, if I'm the physician, I earn $450,000, I'm paid biweekly. That's what you know about me so far. Walk me through how you begin to actually attack and then examine and uncover this situation.
Yeah, so I think I immediately start to salivate, not because of the amount of income, but because there's what I would call a meaningful opportunity to go into the physician's financial household and identify additional cash flow that they may otherwise never have even noticed, right? Just mindlessly spending or being absorbed somewhere else, typically lifestyle creep. But in this scenario, it's, hey, let's take the gross earnings, let's get your pay stub, let's plug it into our proprietary calculator. And again, based on a biweekly pay frequency, so that's 26 pay periods over the year, their gross take home, each pay period is $17,307. Now, again, the Social Security tax is 6.2%. So 6.2% on the $17,307 ends up being a Social Security tax withholding of $1,073.03. Now, for this specific individual, by their 11th pay period, which for 2026 ends up being somewhere near the middle or end of May, they exceed or at least break through the Social Security wage cap. Now, what does this mean? This means that there is no longer any Social Security tax being withheld from their paycheck. So in theory, they have a net increase in take home of about $1,073 per pay period moving forward.
Got it. So what I'm hearing here is I'm going to be receiving my normal paycheck until about mid-May. In that mid to late May timeframe, my paycheck's naturally going to increase by the taxes that were withheld, that 6.2%. And then the real question that I have to ask myself, or perhaps I'm asking my financial professionals, is, hey, do I notice that amount of money new in my paycheck? And then how or what am I doing with it?
Yeah, exactly, because this in itself over the course of the remainder of the year is about $16,460 in gross earnings. And so if I'm a CEO and you're my CFO and I ask you, hey, where's this extra $16,460 going? Like, I see it in the profit and loss or the cash flow statement, but I'm not seeing it on the actual balance sheet. Where is it going? And if you tell me, hey, I have no real idea, I'm probably not going to be happy as a CEO, right? I'm going to be a little disgruntled. So again, this is us ultimately as the financial professional coming in and saying, hey, if we can find extra cash flow that we can put to work for you to allocate towards your goals and your dreams or any debt elimination strategy that we need to define to accelerate things, then why not, right? We're not having to adjust your lifestyle per se, maybe yet, unless it's truly going to the lifestyle creep. But even if it is, we have a mechanism to help combat that we're going to talk about later on in today's episode.
Yeah, so let's jump into that, right? You've identified that extra $1,073 a month that's landing on my paycheck, and I share with you, hey, I have really no idea where this goes. And you've alluded to it. We both know where it's likely going for most clients or most listeners. It's just going to the lifestyle bucket, right? Without really any rhyme or reason. It's just getting naturally consumed because it's now available in the checking account. It's what we refer to as, and we've talked about on numerous episodes, it's just lifestyle creep in general. My income goes up, my natural spending tendency also goes up.
The lifestyle creep is rarely just one massive decision. It's ultimately just death by 1,000 small upgrades, right? Just becoming too comfortable with the excess cash flow and just continuing to increase upon the comforts of the world within our personal world more often than not. So one way that we see this occurring is when all income that the physicians or the professional is earning is going directly into their checking account where they spend for their lifestyle, where they pay all their bills, right? Where they enjoy their life out of. That's what society has taught us to do, and we have a game plan and a system in place to help combat that.
Exactly, Michael. I mean, this is where you and I, as the planners, the professionals, step in with our, I'll put in quotation marks, our CFO type hats here and say, hey, what strategies can we put in place or implement to better capture, coordinate, and then deploy those extra dollars that are coming into our world, perhaps without as much work, without as much active decision making. And this is where we've talked about this on previous episodes, implementing this concept of what is a wealth coordination account, what we've referred to as a surge protector, a command account. It's effectively where all of our income is depositing into one specific account that's holding our cash reserves, I'd say. That command account, surge protector, coordination account, it is not attached whatsoever with our spending account, our normal checking. So when we see pay raises hitting the command account, in this instance, the normal deposit or the normal paycheck that's landing in our checking account is what we've established towards the beginning of the year, when that Social Security tax is still coming out of our paychecks. So as that increase in paycheck from the lack thereof of the Social Security tax, right, that money's captured. It's now no longer subject to lifestyle creep.
Right. And that's where I think as professionals, as extraordinary wealth builders, we can become extremely more efficient with how we manage our cash flow. And just by adding this one extra holding tank or stop on the route of your cash flow going from your employer to your actual spend account, just having this interrupter helps for additional clarity and actual purpose. And what do I mean by that? Well, if all of your income is going into this command account, again, for this individual, it was a little over $17,000 a paycheck. If their lifestyle need is really only, I don't know, let's call it $15,000 a month, $20,000 a month, well, there should be, by the end of the month, excess cash available in that command account, the surge protector, the wealth coordination account, whatever term we want to use, for us to be able to dedicate towards other wealth building activities. So let's just work through a simple mathematical equation here, okay? If I'm getting a little over $17,000 a paycheck, but I'm only spending $20,000 a month, this means that structurally, every time I get paid, 17 kicks into this command account, I'm going to strategically move 10 grand a paycheck over into my checking account. This is where I pay my credit cards. This is where I pay my lifestyle. This is where all my expenses come out of. Well, organically, a little over $7,000 each paycheck should start to build up in that command account, the surge protector. This is great. I'm not having to wait till the end of the month to try to save. I'm not having to set up multiple direct deposits from my paycheck and my employer's payroll program, which can be helpful at times as well. This simplifies the flow and plumbing of cash flow. Now, as it builds up in that command account, now we can start strategically and purposefully allocating on a recurring basis contributions to emergency reserves in a high yield savings account. We can start to accelerate student loan hedging investments for those physicians or professionals that have six figures in student loan debt who are going down the time-based forgiveness path, or who are maybe doing public service loan forgiveness and who have concerns whether or not they end up leaving public service sector and going into private practice and needing to make a lump sum payment towards their loans. Maybe we're pulling from this to fund an annual vacation account. Maybe we're pulling from this as a business owner to make sure that we have enough being set aside for future taxes, or to be able to go into our profit first account, because we are a profit first mentality driven advisory team, just to be able to be more clear on how we're using our dollars, right? Again, I can't emphasize enough the purpose driven mentality. And so these are the things that we can accomplish if the funds are captured. If they're not captured, it becomes much more difficult to become an extraordinary wealth builder.
Yeah, and that was going to be my summary point, is if we do a good job of setting up the system before that Social Security cap gets hit, we're already capturing dollars with specific purpose, and then we're automatically capturing additional dollars once that cap's hit and our paycheck naturally increases.
Correct. And so what we do through this methodology is we're saving through automation and spending by decision, right? Which is ultimately what I would consider, in my opinion, the quickest way to becoming an extraordinary wealth builder.
So let's talk about a complexity here. And
I
it's
love
just
complexities.
a slight complexity. See, I don't love complexity as much as you. So I am making my normal paycheck through the first few months of the year up until mid-May. I recapture that first $1,073 because I've now hit my Social Security cap, and I'm seeing that automatically get reserved in that command account or surge protector account. But then one, maybe two more paychecks go by, and that same $1,073 is not landing in that account, and now I really don't know where it's going because I thought I've organized this whole thing. What's happening here?
Yeah, so this is where the infamous additional Medicare tax kicks in. Okay, so the IRS tax code can be a little tricky at times and more confusing than it needs to be. So just to recap what we've discussed up to this point, for 2026, there is a Social Security wage cap of $184,500. Again, once you've hit that amount and exceeded that amount in gross earnings on the year, 6.2% in Social Security tax withholding is no longer taken out of your paycheck. Okay. Now, once you then breach a new ceiling of $200,000 in gross earnings, there is a additional Medicare tax withholding that is triggered, right? This is in the amount of 0.9%. So less than a full percentage point is going to be withheld each pay period. Now, you mentioned, hey, I breached the 184.5 in pay period 11, mid to late May, for this individual that we were talking about making $450,000 a year. This is awesome. In theory, $1,073 in additional take-home should be hitting my account. True. Now, the next pay period and a half is when you breach the $200,000 gross earning threshold cap. So this triggers the additional Medicare tax of 0.9%. So your net take-home from Social Security recapture ends up being reduced by the additional Medicare tax of 0.9%. So instead of taking home approximately $1,073 per paycheck, it really ends up being closer to about $947 after you breach the additional Medicare tax floor being triggered. Okay.
Got it. So in theory, I'm not losing those dollars, right? It's not me that's, hey, where did these extra dollars end up going? It's just an additional tax that I may not be aware of or may not have completely seen once I hit the $200,000 mark between if I'm the last pay period between 184.5 and 200.
Correct. And so again, I mentioned early on for this physician making $450,000 that over the course of a full calendar year of earning this income, by pay period 11, mid to late May, Social Security tax stops, and there's a gross recapture opportunity of about $16,460 a year, or on the year, right? Again, that breaks out to about $1,073 per paycheck. When you take into account the additional Medicare tax that's incurred, you're going to pay over the course of the remainder of the year somewhere around $2,250 in additional Medicare tax. That's going to net out against the $16,460 in recaptured gross Social Security tax. So your net recapture available on the year ends up being closer to about $14,210 or about $1,184 a month averaged out. So again, this is a sum of funds that is an additional payment towards your mortgage, an additional payment towards your private or federal student loans. That's an additional contribution towards a backdoor Roth contribution that funds your annual vacation fund for your family, or maybe it's a portion of this is going towards a 529 plan for your children, right? There's so many different opportunities with this $1,184 per month that you could leverage it. And it really just becomes a conversation of, hey, now that we've identified what we have the ability to recapture, how do we actually leverage this and create a protocol for the funds that are being captured in your command account or your wealth coordination account to put it to work for you?
So I'd say what I'm hearing is step one is gaining the clarity, the insight, perhaps running the calculation on when am I going to receive these additional dollars and why am I receiving them? Step two, or perhaps step 1B, right, is making sure that I have the system in place to actually capture these dollars. And then step three is more so where your team of professionals steps in. If you're working with a professional to say, okay, I know how much I'm going to be capturing. I've got the system in place to capture it. Now, where do I put it? And that's where more of, and we've talked about this on plenty of prior episodes, more of the purpose-driven discussions really come into play.
Yeah, and I think if you can outline it and automate it to the best of your abilities with the understanding that there will always be some ad hoc adjustments, that's fine. But again, how much should be going towards cash reserves? Maybe in the interim, a larger percentage of those identified dollars are going to cash reserves to bolster up or fully fund an emergency fund. Once we then check the box on meeting that or satisfying that target, we're now talking about readjusting that percentage towards maybe non-retirement investments, or to, again, backdoor Roth contributions, or to potentially pay down your mortgage further and faster, or buying additional real estate if you want to get into investment real estate, or starting a business venture. Maybe you want to be a franchise owner. Maybe you want to invest in private equity, whatever it might be. The funds are available. We now have to put it to a purpose and allocate it accordingly. And again, I think what we've been able to develop with our calculator and the Recapture Your Hidden Cash Flow website is a path to, like you mentioned, identifying the opportunity at hand by understanding that Social Security tax goes away, additional Medicare tax kicks in, but showing you what the per pay period or the per month available potential cash flow is for you then to direct and allocate accordingly with your wishes and your financial plan.
So let's actually expand on that further. We'll use the same example. I'm the physician earning $450,000 a year. I capture those additional dollars after late May. I have netted through the course of the year, call it $14,000, and I've talked to my financial professional and say, hey, here's the purpose and the type of allocation that I'm ready to take action on. Let's walk through, what does that potential look like over the course of my career? Let's say I plan to work for another 20 or so years, give or take.
Yeah. Okay. So this is where I get to ask you, assuming that we're doing some role playing and you're the physician making the 450. So again, we identified through the Social Security recapture calculator that there's approximately $1,184 per month on average that we identified that was in itself at risk of just being absorbed through the lifestyle creep. This comes out to $14,208 per year. You tell me, hey, I plan on wanting to continue working in this capacity for about another 20 years. Perfect. From a risk profile standpoint, we're going to keep it simple. Would you consider yourself conservative, balanced, growth, or aggressive in nature?
That's a great question, because since we've been working together for quite a while, you and I have done a good job of building the appropriate, I would put in quotation marks here, financial defense. I've got the protection in place where if my income goes away or I'm unable to work, I feel comfortable, confident that I'm taken care of. So I'm ready to say for the next 20 years, I want to be an aggressive investor.
Awesome. So from an aggressive investor standpoint, this means that the portfolio as a whole is probably going to hold somewhere between 95 to 100% stocks, right? Because we want to be growth oriented and we're willing and acknowledging to take on the market risk that comes along with that, okay? Maybe 5% in diversifiers such as bonds to hedge, okay? Now, the expected return on that, in my opinion, is going to range somewhere between 7 to 10% plus or minus net of fees as far as expected average return year over year, right? If you just think about the S&P 500 and what the 10-year average is, it's going to be somewhere in that ballpark, probably on the northern side of that range that we presented. Now, if we're saving that $14,208 per year consistently for 20 years and it's growing at a net return of 8%, we have the opportunity to add an additional $702,000 to your balance sheet, to your financial plan. Now, of that, total contributed is about $284,000. Total hypothetical expected gains or growth is about $418,000. That's not a drop in the bucket. That's meaningful money that could be the difference between you potentially being able to exit the workforce at an earlier age versus having to prolong your career path in the medical field. So many doctors get burnt out so quickly because of the long days, long hours, and the stress that comes along with the job. For others, they love what they're doing because of the positive impact that they're having in their patient's world. So what this offers is truly just flexibility and the addition of compounding wealth that can be leveraged based on however you see fit.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing here is if I understand how much I'm recapturing, I've got the system to put it in place, I go out and decide to invest the proceeds aggressively, I may have an additional $700,000, give or take, in my bucket of resources to say, hey, now's the time I can retire, scale back, venture out into another opportunity. Or perhaps along the way, and again, this is where it all is a purpose-driven conversation, or I can say, you know what, I'm going to invest the majority of those dollars and then parcel off some of those dollars along the way to experience more life with my family, to experience more, create more memories with my kids during that time frame. Maybe I only show up to the end of this 20 years with $500,000, but I've made $200,000 worth of memories with my kids that I wouldn't have otherwise made, just mindlessly spending the dollars.
Right. Now, let's just say that you were a physician that didn't realize this or wasn't taught this until after already being in your career path for 10, 15 years. Think about the positive outcome or the significant potential difference that could occur for a young physician coming out of residency or fellowship, or a young professional who's really creating a name for themselves in a role that is allowing them to hit higher levels of earning. The earlier you start this and the more years you can add on from a compounding standpoint, the greater potential outcome, right? So we did a 20-year time horizon with an aggressive investor earning an expected net return of 8%. What did that yield? Somewhere over $500,000, closer to $700,000. If we tack on another 10 years of implementing this type of philosophy, same aggressive growth focus, same expected net return of 8%, just 10 extra years, that end value has the potential to be closer to about $1.7 million.
Ooh,
right?
$1 million more. Yeah.
$1 million more just by tacking on an extra 10-year runway, right? So again, does it help to learn this and start this and implement it sooner? Absolutely. But it doesn't mean that it's all lost if you're 10 years, what I would say, too late. Even if it's 10 years before retirement and you're just starting to do this, it's still a positive win in your column because it's additional cash flow that you're putting onto your balance sheet as opposed to the balance sheets of others.
And I'd say that concept is worth considering, right? If you don't have 30 years to make this happen, it's okay. Because there are many listeners, many clients that we work with that it takes them 10 years to reach $185,000 of earnings, right? Not everyone is jumping right out of a residency program and immediately making $300,000, $400,000, $500,000. There are a lot of attorneys, professionals, others, right, who are kind of climbing the ladder of their career, and it's only in their 40s or 50s where they're now notably over this Social Security cap. So, yeah, 10 years is better than 0 years of education in this capacity.
Yeah, and the other side of this too, right? You kind of hit it on its head. Let's take someone who's in a sales role where they have a nominal base salary, but they have very promising incentive compensation, right? Depending on the sequence of events of when their incentive compensation is paid out could dictate how quickly or how slowly they hit that cap and what this recapture opportunity looks like. So again, in a vacuum, it's a pretty sweet trick, right, to go in and find extra cash flow. But a lot of it's going to be dependent on, one, the amount of income the professional is earning, and then two, the sequence of when the bulk of their income is actually earned and allocated towards this.
Got it. Okay, so to summarize at least most of our episode, important first step is getting educated and really understand what the Social Security cap and the additional Medicare tax actually is if you're a high earning professional. I would say focus point number 2 is building the system to automatically capture the opportunity that's at hand. And then 3 would be ultimately, dictating with purpose where dollars are going, whether it's growth mode, safety mode, experience mode. So you're living your life and you're building your financial plan with more purpose. And then really time is your greatest weapon here, right? Just letting time do a lot of the work for you is where all of the opportunity comes into play. And right, whether that time's 10 years or 30 years, there's still a big impact. So in finality, I'd say this episode opened your eyes to money that already may be flowing through your paycheck unnoticed. We encourage that you actually go and calculate it and then claim it right through the system.
Absolutely. We've created a complementary tool called Recapture Your Hidden Cash Flow that helps identify, one, when your Social Security tax cap is met, how much additional potential take-home pay you may find available in your world, and also how you can intentionally redirect those dollars towards great purpose.
And you can access that calculator at recapture-your-hidden-cashflow.replit.app.
As always, if you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this with someone who may be unknowingly allowing hidden cash flow to disappear every single year. And if you'd like us to answer your questions on a future episode, head over to www.genesiswealthplanning.com/AMA. Until next time, keep building not just wealth, but financial fortitude.
Are you considering hiring a financial advisor? If so, be sure to listen to episode 1 of Financial Fortitude. In this episode, we discuss the reasons why many people choose to hire a financial advisor and highlight the key qualities you should look for in the financial professional you decide to work with.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not to be construed as tax, legal, or investment advice. Although the information has been gathered from sources believed to be reliable, please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon only when coordinated with individual professional advice. Guest speakers and their firms are not affiliated with or endorsed by Park Avenue Securities, Guardian, or Genesis Wealth Planning LLC, and opinions stated are their own. Guardian, its subsidiaries, agents, and employees do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice. Consult your tax, legal, or accounting professional regarding your individual situation. All investments and investment strategies contain risk and may lose value. All scenarios and names mentioned herein are purely fictional and have been created solely for educational purposes. Any resemblance to existing situations, persons, or fictional characters is coincidental. The information presented should not be used as the basis for any specific investment advice. Michael Acosta and Brady are registered representatives and financial advisors of Park Avenue Securities, LLC, PAS. Securities products and advisory services offered through Park Avenue Securities, member FINRA, SIPC. Financial representatives of the Guardian Life Insurance Company of America, Guardian, New York, New York. Park Avenue Securities is a wholly owned subsidiary of Guardian. Consolidated Planning Group, Inc. and Genesis Wealth Planning, LLC are not affiliates or subsidiaries of Park Avenue Securities or Guardian. Michael Acosta's California Insurance License Number 0M50974 and Brady Hemmerly's California Insurance License Number 4353077. 7237198.36, expiration 6/28.